Hello, John Bloodworth, Gentleman Crafter, back with Fun with Foundation Paper Piecing, this time part 7, and we're going to be doing a pattern called Diagonal Stripes. That's fairly obvious, I think. Now, this one does take a little bit of trimming towards the end, but initially it's very quick to cut and stitch together. We're just working with, again, strips of fabric in 3 different sizes and 2 different colours. You can do all 5 in different colours if you want. Now, part 1 is the central strip, and again I have given you dotted positioning guides for that, and I'm going to loosely glue that in place with a fabric stick. That goes wrong side facing down, and you need to position it so that it covers the entire block area and from corner to corner. I'm then going to position part 2 over the edge of part 1 and make sure that it's basically, again, fairly central on that long strip, that center strip. Pin it in place, 2 will do, and then you're going to start at the beginning of the dashed line between parts 1 and 2, do a lock stitch or reverse stitch, and then stitch all the way down that dashed line. Make sure you're using a small stitch spacing, as that will help you tear the paper away at the end when you've finished sewing your blocks together. Work slowly if you can, just because that gives you a little more control, and make sure that your stitching is on that dashed line. If it goes either side, it will affect where the stitching is placed, and of course then where the block ends up. I'm using a finger presser here, but you can of course use a mini iron if you want to. And then part 3 again goes in the center. Pin in place and stitch. This time you're stitching the line between parts 1 and 3. We're working in opposites again here rather than rounds. If you're just joining me for this video, there are 6 already available. Do check out the playlist on YouTube. And of course you can have the free downloads from the blog as well. There will be a link below the video on YouTube. Or of course the download links will be in the post where you're viewing this on my blog. Trimming the threads as I work, and pressing back each time I've sewn a piece on. Now for this particular pattern, I want to make sure that the edges of those parts 2 and 3 are straight, so I am going to fold back and just use my add a quarter ruler to make sure that they are in fact straight. And the reason for this is because I use those to line up the last part at each corner. So it's just a scrap bit of card to help me fold back neatly, positioning the lip of the ruler against that, and then trimming with the rotary cutter. You can see they were very thin slivers, but it might make a difference. Next up, part 4, again placing that centrally, pinning in place and stitching on the dashed line between the 2 sections. Flat-headed pins are good for this, although these, which are called magic pins I believe, are also very good. Pins with the big round heads do sometimes cause you to go off in different directions. So that's part 4 on, and I'm going to press this back as normal. And that part should then conceal or cover the entirety of the remainder of the pattern. And this part, part 5, should cover the other end or other corner. On the cutting pattern, I've done parts 1, 4 and 5, so that's the central strip and the 2 corner points, in one colour, and parts 2 and 3, so that's the 2 in-betweenies, in another colour. You can of course do them in whatever colour scheme you want, maybe 5 different colours or just 2 colours, however you want to work it. On the cutting guide I tell you which pattern location each part is being cut for, so you should be able to work out which bit goes where. Now, cutting up against that solid outline, apologies for the autofocus on my camera, it hates reflections of light, so it goes a bit skew-whiff. But yes, cutting down. So you can see here we do have a little bit of waste of the fabric, but not so much that you'll end up crying at night. I felt it was easier to do this rather than doing complicated diagonal cuts in the fabric. And there we go. That is number 7 done. That's the diagonal stripes. I'll see you next time for part 8.